The Herb of Fear. One morning, the man of Carrara sat in his marble mountain making things. By the end of the day, he had made a child and a puppy, both out of pure white marble. He called the child Nanina and the puppy Cecchino. When he had put the last stroke to them, he sent them away to be filled with life and to set about making something else. As soon as the spark of life had been lit in them, Cecchino cried, "Nanina!" and Nanina cried, "Cecchino!" And Cecchino leapt into Nanina's arms, and Nanina cuddled and kissed him. Oh, they recognized each other instantly, for were they not made of the same stuff? However, they had not much time for cuddles and kisses. Nanina was sent one way, and Cecchino another, to find their homes on earth. In due course, Nanina came to live in Fiesole on the hilltop, with a garden that looked over the whole world. And Cecchino found a lodging in an old house that was falling into decay, but was a very pleasant place for a little dog to make mischief in, for it had great empty rooms full of silk hangings and tassels, and a big wide garden full of roses and persimmons. Nanina was happy on her hilltop, and the only thing that cast a shadow on her days was her fear of monsters. There were so many monsters in the world, monsters with horns, monsters with swishing tails, monsters with green eyes, monsters with yapping voices, and all of them had 4 legs instead of 2, like reasonable people. Of people, Nanina had no fear whatever. Cecchino, for his part, feared nothing on 4 legs. He would have worried a herd of elephants as gaily as he worried the silk fringe on the rich faded curtains in his dwelling. But he was afraid of giantesses. If ever he heard of a giantess anywhere near, he ran and hid under a couch, and would not come out till the danger was past. He roamed at will wherever he pleased, and every day he ran down to Florence to drink of the green Arno, which tasted better than any water in Italy. But he never on any account ran up to Fiesole, because he had heard that a giantess lived there. One day news came that all the brigands in Italy were on the way, and nobody was safe. Everybody got the shivers and shakes. When Nanina went for a walk that morning, she found all the shops and houses shut and bolted. This vexed her, because she wanted a persimmons to eat after dinner, and she had 2 soldi to buy it with. She ran all around the market square, rattling at the doors, while the people ran into their cupboards and got under their beds, quite sure that the brigands were after them. Then Nanina got cross, for when she wanted a persimmons, she wanted a persimmons. As she stood in the empty market square, wondering what to do, she saw the old milkman coming down one of the twisty streets with his milk cart behind him and a sprig in his hat. Brigands or no brigands, the milk must be left just the same. He knew Nanina well and stopped at once to ask her, "What is the matter, Nanina?"
"I want a persimmon."
"Oh, there are no persimmon."
"Why?"
"The brigands have taken them all."
"But I want one," explained Nanina.
"Then you must go to the brigands," said the milkman.
"Then I will,"
said Nanina, and off she went. Over the mountains she saw the brigands coming from their lair, streams and streams of them, in black slouch hats and big cloaks. The people were flying before them in all directions, and the brigand chief was shouting, "Ha, ha, 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 ha," as he always did when he saw people flying before him. The crowd was so great that Nanina could hardly push through it, but she waved her little hands and stamped her little feet, and her white cheeks flushed, and her blue eyes flashed, and her bright hair glittered in the sun as she cried, "Out of my way! I want to see the brigand chief!"
"Run, child, run!"
the people cried.
"The brigand chief will gobble you up as soon as look at you." "Stuff and nonsense," said Nanina. "Out of my way at once."
And through the flying crowd she marched, till she met the brigand chief face to face. For the first time in his life he saw himself confronted by sparkling blue eyes, blowing gold hair, two pink cheeks, two little feet that stamped at him, two little fists that shook at him, and an angry little voice that cried, "How dare you take all the persimmons in Italy when I want one after dinner? Give me a persimmons this instant, or I'll tell on you." The brigand chief turned pale.
"Arg, you wouldn't do that, would you?"
he said.
"Yes, I would," said Nanina fiercely. "Give me a persimmons at once."
The brigand chief shook in his shoes.
"Alas,"
he whispered,
"we have eaten them all."
And he burst into tears. Seeing their chief weep, all the other brigands confessed,
"Alas, alas, it is true we have eaten them."
And they all burst into tears.
"Very well," said Nanina. "I shall go and tell."
"Wait,"
cried the chief.
"there is one hope left. In an old wilderness of a garden on the way to Florence grows the finest persimmons tree in Italy. That tree alone we have not robbed, because—"
"Because?" demanded Nanina.
"Because,"
said the brigand chief in a low voice,
"it is guarded by a monster."
Then he threw up his hands to heaven, turned on his heel, and ran back as fast as he could to his lair, and never came out again, and all his brigands followed him. So Italy was delivered forever from brigands by Nanina in a single moment. Everybody came and praised and petted her, but she was in such a temper that she would not listen to them. All she said was, "I want a persimmons. I want a persimmons to eat after dinner." "You must wait till next year, little darling," said the people. "Next year, when the persimmons are ripe, you shall eat them all."
"I don't want them then," said Nanina. "I just want one. now."
"But there are none now. The brigands took them all."
"No, they didn't. They didn't take the tree in the old garden on the way to Florence, but—"
"But what, little darling?"
"It is guarded by a monster," said Nanina tremulously.
Her little lip quivered, and she began to sob.
"I am a horrible monster."
At this moment, the old milkman pushed his way through the crowd.
"What's the matter here?"
he asked, and listened while one and another told him the story. Nanina herself was sobbing too hard to speak.
"It appears to me," said the milkman at last, "that as Nanina has delivered you from brigands, you ought to go and get her a persimmons."
But the people said, "We don't like monsters," and turned on their heels and ran away as fast as they could to their homes, where they locked themselves in again. Then the milkman said to Nanina,
"Oh, it appears to me that if you want a persimmons, you must get it yourself."
"But I don't like monsters either,"
sobbed Nanina.
Well, that can be remedied. Do you see this sprig in my hat? It is called the herb of fear. Not because it makes you afraid, but because it draws all the fear out of you. Listen carefully, Nanina. Follow my counsel, and all will be well. I happen to know that this is the hour when the monster you speak of goes down to Florence to drink the green Arno. Now is your moment to go to the desert garden in the courtyard in which stands a ruined fountain. Throw this herb into the water. Bathe yourself therein, and when you come out you will fear no monsters as little as you do brigands."
The old man looked so wise and kind that Nanina trusted him. Off she ran as fast as she could to reach the fountain before the monster returned. She flung the herb of fear into the water and stripped off her flock, and just then, oh horror, she heard the shrill voice of the monster, "Yip, yip, yip," yapping at the gate. As quick as thought, she jumped into the fountain. She had hardly done so when the monster himself leapt over the wall and jumped in after her. For he had met the old milkman at the gate, who had told him that the giantess from Fiesole had come down to look at him, and his only chance was to bathe in the fountain and grow bold. For a moment or two the courtyard was filled with splashes and cries and yelps. Then Nina sat up on her side of the fountain, shaking the water out of her curls, and the monster sat up on his side, shaking the water out of his coat. As soon as they set eyes on each other,
"Cecchino!"
cried Nanina.
"Nanina!"
cried Cecchino. And Cecchino leapt into Nanina's arms, and Nanina cuddled and kissed him. They knew each other instantly, for were they not made of the same stuff? Down the garden the monster and the giantess went together, and soon a puppy and a little girl were eating persimmons to their hearts' content.